Well, I'm originally from Vietnam. So I'm born and raised in south of Vietnam. Uh, so I think I'm the true definitions of a Southern Vietnamese. Like I like my food to be a little bit sweet. Um, I like eating out, and I enjoy this like all year round sunny weather. So very southern of Vietnam. And then I moved to the Netherlands after high school, and then I lived there for almost 8 years. And then I moved back to Vietnam for a year, and then now I moved to back to Europe, and now I'm in Dublin. Not highly recommended. Is that what I would say? Well, I think I didn't plan on doing something different or like make a lot of changes during 2020. It just I already had like some plan at the end of 2019. It just happened that after that this pandemic happened, and the main so I remember that we talked about like when I was about to leave the Netherlands. I also told you that
I remember
considering
that.
move to another European country, and I really wanted to be in Berlin because I just really like this idea of like living there. And I was actually like actively interviewing with a couple of companies there, and I do got an offer to be there. But then I just realized that I was not really because there's some stuff in my family that I had to take care of, and I just felt like I think that's the difficult part of like for us like being an expat. Is that
Exactly. Yeah.
we have this career that we really want to develop, and then we also have a family that we want to be responsible for, which is really far away. And I was at a point where I was really debating because I was also not sure if things are already stable at home that I can just like move on and move to another country. Because if I move to another country, I want to make sure that I can be there for a while. I don't want to be in the situation that I'm in the country for like 6 months, and then I realized that I have to like pack my stuff and then like move around again.
Exactly what you did for the last year.
And then and then it just happened that I got an opportunity in Vietnam to work on a very very like local tech products. So I was just thinking, well, I've always been very much curious about how it is working in a tech company in Southeast Asia and building a product that is specifically catering to that market. So I thought, well, it's like a really perfect opportunity for me to, be close to family and at the same time try that. I think like that's, long story short, that's why things happen the way they are. Yeah. For us, expat is always there's some point that there's gonna be is gonna be like a debate or like a struggle that we have to deal with. Like because for us it's like of course everybody has to prioritize work and family. But for us it's sometimes it requires of like taking a break from where we are.
Exactly. So if I ask you to use one word to describe your experience in the last year, what would that be?
Well, I think it's from my perspective, it's necessary. Because the biggest reason for my decision was family. And basically, they have been there for me for all the things. So certainly, I want to do the same thing for them. So I think it's kind of like no questions asked around that. That I moved back because of them. Well, when I moved back to Vietnam, I planned on being there for like 2 or 3 years. I didn't plan to. I didn't plan to be back to Europe this quickly. I think it's quite. It happened a bit by chance. Um, so I got a message from the recruiter from the company, and it seems like she saw my LinkedIn profile and she said that it seems like it's matching with what they're looking for. So I think it started from there, and then we're just like having a chat, and then I moved forward with the interview process.
Yeah.
And then I think throughout that process, I learned more about this company, and it seems like a company that matches a lot of things that I was looking for. So that I really like doing B2B research, and
Yeah.
that's like a huge thing on my list. So and it's like I got that tick off, and then also throughout the interview process, I feel like it's a place with like really great culture and really great support for research. And yeah, and then I think like I was really debating throughout like the whole process, because I'm like, yeah, well, I kind of have it going okay here, but this also seemed like a really great opportunity. Yeah, and then my like things in my family also, like it's quite stable at that time. So I thought, well, then I just jumped at the opportunity, I would say.
Yeah, that's nice. Yeah, that's nice. Yeah, it's a story that
Yeah.
that I'm very surprised to find out, but I think that's nice. Yeah, it's like
Are you
sometimes.
imagining like a very, very well strategized process?
No, no, the like a very stressed out, but like a very different process. Like maybe there was someone reach out to you, or maybe someone that you proactively reach out to, make some network, etc. Like, but it sounds like someone fell in love with you, and then they reach out to you directly, and then you said yes to this person,
And
and
then I
then
fall in love back.
yeah,
I think mostly the decision to be here is because I want to invest in my career, basically.
yeah,
And I want to be very again, very intentional with my decisions. So, and because when I left my first job, I was also thinking what should be my next steps. Like where if I want to do UX research going forward, then what kind of industry I want to be in, what kind of user profiles I want to
yeah,
try doing research with. And those opportunities normally they come depending on what past experience you have, like in your previous
yeah,
work experience. It's kind of influence what
yeah,
kind of opportunities will open up for you.
exactly.
So and for myself, I really wanted to do more research on the B2B side. um, and I was just thinking to myself, like, where I can get more exposure to that. Uh, and in Vietnam, I think UX research is really growing. It's growing very fast. Uh, but there will be certain things that I won't be able to get the kind of opportunity I can get there. Will not be as many as I would have being here. Um,
Yeah,
so just based on that fact, um,
yeah.
yeah,
Then
I was applying for other companies, of course, but uh, I ended up being in a company that I didn't apply for. Like I ended up being in a company that reached out to me first. Yeah.
yeah, sounds like relationships. Yeah. So for the current job that you have, you did not proactively applying for it. It's just they came to you. They said, "Hey," they knocked the door and say, "Hey, Trang, we fell in love with you, and please join us." Just wondering, maybe let's
Don't
talk about yeah. Let's talk about when you were looking for jobs at the beginning of 2020. Just wondering how did you know how do you search for like job openings, like from LinkedIn or from your network or
Yeah, so I I think I made use of both, but of a majority of vacancy I found was on LinkedIn.
mm,
And I think it took me quite a while to realize what I want to focus on, because I think when I started applying, I was just like, I think it was just like a bit
yeah,
like catching fish at the time, because also like there's a couple of industries that I was like curious about. Like for example, I was wondering what it would be doing UX research in healthcare, in
Mm-hmm.
fintech, and B2B, of course. Then I was just applying to a couple of companies that I find interesting, but certainly there's no focus. I think after a while,
Mm.
uh, certainly there's a focus that got formed in my job search.
Yeah.
Um, yeah, I think most of my experience were pretty much like a standard application process, just like
Mm-hmm.
applying for a vacancy and
Yeah.
then wait to hear back from them if they
Right.
get back to me.
听着，yeah, yeah. Okay. Since we're talking about Tinder, so how do you know if a position is a good fit for you? You know, when you apply for it.
um, First of all, I would look. I'm very critical with job description. Like,
Mm,
I would really try to understand why they write the job description that way.
mm,
Um, and I would totally avoid those kind of job description that describe this person who can do it all. You know, like
mm.
they list out like they want
Yeah.
someone who can do research design, and I think even saw a job description that requires coding. I'm like, why you need a researcher who can code? Um,
Startup.
so I think
Yeah.
like just by carefully looking at the job description, we can already filter out so many of these like
Yeah.
vacancies that I think probably not going to end up like a good place.
Yeah.
um, and then I rely a lot on my interaction with the recruiter,
Mm-hmm.
trying to ask. I feel like it's actually a really good predictor of how the company envisioned this research position going to be.
Mm-hmm.
I think the more detail they can brief the recruiter means the clearer the vision they have for
Yeah.
this person, how this person can fit in into the organization.
Mm,
So I would try to ask a lot of questions about like how this position is, like what is the reason for hiring for this position, and
mm,
uh, um, how is the research culture is in the companies. I always ask about how they think about prioritization in
yeah.
research.
Mm-hmm.
Um, so I expect to hear an answer that give me kind of like an idea that they want someone with focus,
Mm,
like so ability to prioritize, ability to focus on important stuff.
mm,
I think myself, I would try to avoid answers like, uh,
mm-hmm.
yeah, would try to move things fast and like,
Yeah.
but if I don't hear this part of prioritization, then it's going to be a red flag for me.
Okay.
Um,
Yeah.
and I think the third thing is about a culture. So
Mm,
I think that is something I think we get a sense from speaking with people on the interview panel.
yeah.
So how they ask questions, how they react to your answer, whether they leave space for you to ask follow-up questions or not as well.
Mm,
So I've been through interview process with um, quite some companies. I think it's it's standard in a sense that
mm,
is always this, you have like a screening call with a recruiter, and then there would be like a technical interview. Sometime I
yeah.
think they call it like initial interview, and it
Mm,
tends to be with somebody who's going to work directly with. So that
mm-hmm.
could be your direct future manager, like
Mm-hmm.
and or like a fellow researchers who going to be on the same team with you.
Yeah.
um, and then I think in majority of cases, is always expected of you to be able to walk through a couple of past research projects you have
Mm,
done,
yeah.
and able to kind of like explain the context
Mm-hmm.
why this project is needed,
Mm-hmm.
what you did, and then what was the impact.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's right. You have to present your portfolio during the interview. Yeah.
Yeah.
Besides that, what are the like the typical questions asked during a user research interview?
Yeah. Questions. I think there will be, I feel like there are different types of questions. So there will be just like questions for gathering information, like how many teams you worked with before. Can you describe the kind of like research product setup that you've been familiar with? What kind of research focus you had in your previous job? And there's also hypothetical questions as well, like what would you do if you get these questions from product or design, and what if you do if somebody reacts like this to your research findings? And yeah, and there's also several questions about like about culture fit as well, like how you deal with failure, for example, or how you deal with criticism. I personally, I really like those kind of questions because it really allows, those kind of questions allow people to know me, and also it's by observing how they react to it, it's also give me a sense of how that company is as well.
Yeah, whether you share similar values, whether they are people oriented, and whether they care about employee. Yeah, it's definitely very important.
The research view.
Yeah.
Well, you want 3.
Well, you know, in the user research, you always push people to think more, and then they think about 2, or they were like, what's more? And then you're very happy. I actually only look for 1. And she thought about 2. Yeah. No pressure.
Yeah. So first advice. So this is not something I came up with myself. This is something it's an advice that I got from a very experienced researcher at my previous company. So before I left, I asked her what is one piece of advice she could give me in order to find a job that I could really grow and go in depth into this field of research. And I think she had like such a great answer. She said that really think about why you want to do research in that company. And there can be many reasons, right? Like besides the part that you have like all these tools and processes that allow you to do really fancy data collection, or that you receive really good education benefits to like upskill yourself. There's also other aspects to be considered, like do you feel yourself connected to the business model this company is running, is operating, or do you feel do you find yourself being interested in the user profiles that they serving, for example? Like, can you imagine sitting through hours of interviews with that user profiles talking about that particular topic? Or you can also consider, are you interested in the products that they're building? So I think what she said makes a lot of sense, because I think it's rare to be able to find a place where you can that's kind of like satisfy all of your requirements on all of these aspects, but at least be able to give yourself an answer that you find some part of it interesting. And for me personally, I care a lot about user profiles. Like I want to make sure that I always get really interesting discussions with people I come into interaction with. So always consider what is important for you as a researcher, being in working in that place. And ask a lot of questions about how research is being perceived and structured in the company. How they think about prioritization, how they think about taking feedback and recommendations from research, how researchers works with other stakeholders. I think that part is very, very important in making sure that we're able to create impact. What else? Last thing. For some reason, these questions, they sound simple, but they're also very hard at the same time.
And I was just doing this strategic silence to force you.
Oh yeah, last one. always have your portfolio ready.
Mm,
I think I think we never know when opportunities come.
mm,
So uh, I feel like we should not be in this position where we're unprepared for a really good opportunity. Like
yeah.
let's say you suddenly one day go on LinkedIn and you come across this like excellent opportunity,
Mm,
or like you get a message from a recruiter via LinkedIn, and
yeah.
then they were like, let's have a chat, send me your portfolio, and then nobody's gonna wait for 3 days in order to receive a portfolio from
Yeah.
us. So always like we working, we everybody's working busy working all the time, but make sure
Mm-hmm.
from time to time set
Yeah.
aside a time to actually note down what we've been able to achieve so far. I
Mm.
think this is something that you mentioned in your previous videos as well. Uh,
Thanks for helping advertising my channel, Trang. Appreciate.
I've
Yeah,
been
these
watching a lot
were
of
these
your
were
videos.
let's say in a different country, because if you're in Europe, I think it's relatively easier to apply for a job just within the European countries. But if you're in, for example, in Asia, and then you apply for a job in Europe, and to many, yeah, maybe to you that was like, but to many people, maybe they were like a bit, on the one hand, they are looking forward to try it out. On the other hand, they are a bit like intimidated. Do you have any like advice or suggestions for them?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think I had a few conversations around this topic.
Yeah.
And I think what I often hear is that people will say, oh, this is my experience,
Mm.
but I'm not sure how transferable or applicable it would
Mm.
be,
Yeah.
uh, being in a different market, being in a different culture.
Mm-hmm.
Uh, but the interesting thing is when I hear about their experience, I hear about their, career stories, I
Mm.
always find them very fascinating. Like
Mm.
they work with very difficult user profiles. They working in a very like fast moving economies as well. Like all of these, I think like all of these experience make them a very strong research UX researcher candidate.
Mm.
Because and also you like take into account the complex layers of cultures as well. Like
Mm.
like for example, China and Vietnam are both highly collective cultures, and
Mm.
there's when we're interacting with people, there's a lot of subtext that there's a lot of
Mm.
layers that we need to get through in order to
Yeah.
understand what is being communicated. If you are a working professional in that culture, actually, like just by being that culture and working there, you have actually the training, like naturally you have the training of how being able to do stakeholder management in a very like
Mm.
flexible and a very
Yeah.
yeah, like you're very natural with it.
Mm.
So I think it's actually a strength that can be highlighted
Mm.
on your profile. And also I think the experience are always relevant. It is
Mm.
you I think research is one of those things that can be very transferable.
Yeah.
uh, so because of that, I think my advice would be confident in the story you tell when you
Mm-hmm.
deal when you going into interviews or when you
Yeah.
preparing your application.
Mm.
uh, don't start a conversation with a statement like, oh, so this is my experience in Vietnam, in China, but I'm not sure
Mm.
how it is in Europe
Yeah.
and in Germany and Netherlands, because
Mm.
um, nobody is saying that it's not relevant, but then
Yeah.
we ourselves are kind of like stereotyping and kind of like putting ourselves in a box, saying that
Yeah.
we have
Yeah.
a very exotic or like
Mm.
different experience. I think instead of saying that, we can say that we have all these unique skills and experience
Mm.
that can really contribute to
Mm.
what's already there in that
嗯，
market.
听说
Yeah.
你最近通过了汉语水平考试，所以我们这个 interview 是不是可以用中文开？
你在搞我吗？
Yeah, you understood me, Trang.
那
That was a great
你
test.
你先给我买一顿火锅，然后我们就用中文来谈一些职业是吧？
Let's go to Yuan's hot pot.
好啊，好啊。
You visit.